you break into a sweat with even the thought of having company? I'm here to help. After trying just a few of my hosting tips, you'll be more than ready to say, come on over. People have said to me, man, you have a lot of houseplants. No idea why they would say that. I mean, oh, look at all these. Well, let me tell you something. I do have a pretty good collection of houseplants, but they're not all together like this. I mean, right now it looks like I'm living in a jungle, which I sort of am.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight.
But they get distributed throughout 2,600 square feet, so it's not like it's all encompassing. So today we're talking about basic care of houseplants. And by basic, I mean watering, soil conditions, and maybe small maintenance. Let's start with what I consider one of the easiest houseplants you can buy, and you're probably going to argue with me, but you're going to be wrong. And that would be the orchid. Now, orchids scare people. I don't really know why, other than people feel like they fail at the orchid. But the orchid is actually a plant that thrives on neglect. That's right, it thrives on neglect. And if you think about what an orchid is, you'll find out why. An orchid is basically a bit of root system that actually sticks out of whatever it's in, a very solid leaf with a stem and a bloom. When it's a happy orchid, you see green stems. It's coming out of basically very little. It is a bark type soil. In fact, it's called a cactus, palm, and citrus potting soil. This is what you would use for an orchid, or you could use a bark mix. It does not retain a lot of moisture. It basically holds the roots of the orchid in place. That's all it's doing. I mean, this is a plastic container that is full of bark holding this in place. This orchid blooms almost continuously. You can see that different branches have branched off, and I will even show you that when they turn brown like this, you just get in there, you snip them off, and it's done blooming. This may turn brown all the way back to the bottom of the stem. You just snip it off, it will grow a new one. I have blooms here, I have buds going. This one didn't do so well, doesn't matter. And it could not be simpler to care for. Watering can, measuring cup. This is a 4 ounce. I pour in 4 ounces. I dump it in. That is literally it. And then I ignore it for another week.
Why is everyone ignoring me?
I do occasionally fertilize it. I fertilize it when it's in bloom, which it says on the instructions for the orchid food. I also put it in a northeast window. That gives it light, but not harsh direct light, which it does not want. It is a tropical plant. It will grow on trees, but it doesn't want to be in bright sunlight. Super, super easy. If the leaves are getting a little dirty, which mine are, honestly, I take a little leaf shine, spray it on there, wipe it off, and it looks great. If the leaves are getting a little dusty, you can just take a cloth and just dust them like this, or if you'd like them to shine, you can take this Miracle-Gro leaf shine, spray it on your cloth, and make it a little shinier. It is good for most leaves, and see how pretty that is? There's also a packet of pre-moistened plant cleaning wipes. This could not be easier. You pull them out, start cleaning. So, super easy, I highly recommend this. Another plant that you often see in homes is the violet. I am not great at growing violets, truth. Somehow something goes wrong with me every time, but I'm not going to give up. Now this one has bloomed out a bit. So I'm gonna go in there with my scissors and I'm gonna go down to the bloom where it's bloomed out, clip it off. I mean, folks, could this get any simpler? You do want to do this because you want to remove things the plant is trying to save. So if your violet has bloomed out, and they'll do that, and you leave them on there, it'll keep trying to send energy to the violet. Now, we have one bloom that is eventually going to die out too, and then I'll have none. But then I will use my violet food and I will help it get back to blooming. Now here's something about violets. They do not like their leaves to be wet.
You cursed brat! Look what you've done!
So when you do water, you don't want to dump it in over the top. This is just in a nursery can, not difficult. This is just a pot I had in the garage. Also had a plastic enclosure, which I liked because it sat up a little higher. And you take your watering can and you just water under the leaves. If that makes you nervous, you can do something I really enjoy doing. I pour it in my 4-ounce orchid water, and then I have a giant syringe. Yes, you can use these to water. I draw the water out of this into the syringe, and now I can target water. You don't have to do this. You could take this plant and sit it down in water and let the roots absorb from the bottom. And I often do that too. It depends on where the plant is. If the plant is near a water source where I can do that easily, that's what I'll do. If I happen to have this in my hand, I will just give it a drink. Now, you might notice that we have large leaves and small leaves. Sometimes the bottom leaves or the larger leaves will get a little weird looking, a little icky. I'm trying to see if I have any here. I have a couple that are looking a little yellow. You just go in there and snip them off. You're not going to hurt your plant. This plant is fairly forgiving. Got a little water on the leaf. I'm going to wipe that off. Very easy to care for. It also does not want direct sunlight. Most houseplants do not. I have this in a northeast window because it likes it there and it rewards me with beautiful purple blooms. Now, let's talk about this giant thing back here behind me. This is called a Grape Iv. This plant is probably 30 years old.
It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage.
I know it's at least 20 years old, but it's probably more like 30 years old. I know that because this was my mother's. And she kept this looking this gorgeous for I cannot remember how many years before I got it. She finally got tired of it, and I brought it back with me from Michigan. And when I brought it back, something happened here. It became unhappy, and I couldn't quite figure out what was wrong with it. I took it to a greenhouse, which I recommend you do if you have a problem plant, and I asked them, what do you think is going on? And they thought there might have been root rot, which can happen when the roots of a plant sit in too much water for too long. So I took it out, and let me tell you folks, it was looking really bad. Like I thought I was gonna lose it. Took it out, took the roots out, dried them off, let them dry a little bit in the fresh air, repotted with regular potting mix. So why not dirt? Dirt is not potting mix. This helps distribute the air and the water around the roots. I did not use this because it's not cactus, palm, and citrus. It is an ivy. So I used regular potting mix. I put it in new soil, in a new pot, and look at this. I mean, it is crazy. I have this by my piano because it's so outrageously beautiful. Now you might notice that some of the leaves are shiny and some of them are not. The shiny leaves are the new leaves. Now, if I wanted to, I could get in here with my leaf shine and also shine up these leaves. And sometimes when I'm really bored, I will do that. Or if I'm talking on the phone for a long time and I have them on speakerphone, I'll just get in here and I'll shine these leaves, and I am immediately happy because everything looks wonderfully shiny. For these plants, almost anything else you see here that does not have a specific fertilizer, not orchid, not violet, I will use a plain old Miracle-Gro fertilizer. This is a cool invention because they come in individual singles packets. You dump this into a watering can, put your water in there, and it is ready to go. No measuring, you just go for it. You could also buy it in a large container, which if you look around, is probably what I need to use, and measure it out yourself. There's a little measuring spoon in here that comes with it. for whatever size your watering can is. There's also one of these, little smaller one. It's all Miracle-Gro, and they all work great. So I just take my watering can, I just get in there and right down the middle, right through the middle. I just water it normally. Sometimes this plant will get underneath, it'll get old, dead leaves. And so what I do is I just get under there, give it a little shake. Sometimes I'll give it a haircut. I can see one right here that's just too long. Scissors. Again, do not be afraid of your plants. Snip it off if it's too long. If you wanted to start a new one, you could get roots growing on this if you wanted to. So, not difficult to care for at all. I do have this in a southwest window, but I have it back from the window, and there is a beautiful Japanese maple in front of it that when leafed out filters the light, and it is clearly happy there, very happy. I turn it a quarter turn each week, and it's beautiful all around. Very simple care. All right, let's talk about the palm. This is a palm. I don't even know what kind it is. I just know it's a palm. It was a gift. It came in this pot. It's still in this pot, and it's in kind of a spongy type of soil. I'm usually not wild about that, but I think this palm kind of likes it because it was half the size when someone gave it to me. Oh, it was my friend Jenny who gave this to me. Hey, Jenny. I keep it in this lovely pot here because I do want it to drain and drain nicely. And you can see maybe right here, it's got a little leaf right there. It's clearly happy. So what the growers have done is they have cut off the large part of the palm, and 2 branches came off on the side. Genius, because it makes it more interesting, I think. So we've got a new leaf coming out. You can see right here that it has a little bit of a damage on that leaf. That is probably because I overwatered it at one point. There's a couple of other spots. Usually when you see a brown spot, that's because you've overwatered. It also could be that you've underwatered. If it's on the tip, you can cut that off. Like here's a little tip right here that has shown a little damage. And I mean, it is just a tiny bit, but if it's bothering you, you just go with your scissors and you can just snip that off that easily. Super easy. You also just come in with your watering can and right in there, you just give it a little drink. And you want to keep that not wet. Most plants do not want to be super wet, so you want it just enough to make it happy. I keep it soft, that's all. I try not to overwater because I did. Now, another plant similar to that is a kalanchoe. I've also heard it pronounced kalanchoa. I don't know what the real one is, but it's a kalanchoe. And this is an indoor-outdoor plant, and I have a lot of those. An orchid can go outdoors, especially in the south. I think a violet can go outdoors if it's covered. I don't have a covered deck, so that wouldn't work for me. But this can take, the kalanchoe can take a huge amount of abuse outside. It can take heavy, heavy heat, hot, hot sun.
Wow, 750 degrees in Gila Bend right now.
And look how it rewards me. And this is the second time it has bloomed. When I got it, it was blooming. Maybe you can see these little brown spots here. They're kind of flying off here. These are the old blooms that have dried up, and you can just remove. Then, of course, if you remove the dried parts, new ones will come out and bloom. And I know that I could cut this back. I could cut it way back and it could start growing again, but I'm not going to do that because it's doing fine as it is. I keep this in a northeast window in the kitchen, and it continues to bless me. These come in all different colors: yellow, purple. This is kind of a cool purple pink, white. Really nice colors. Easy care. This is just in another pot like the other ones. Watering can, pour it in. That's it. There's really very, very little maintenance involved in this. Very forgiving plant.
And that I do not forgive.
Okay, so along that line, let's clean this off for a little bit. Right into the floor because I could do that. Let's talk about another plant that you usually think is an outdoor plant, and it probably could be, I just don't do it. And that is this giant thing over here. Do you see this thing? It is probably 3 feet tall. This is a begonia, but it's not a flowering begonia. It's a begonia that has a super cool leaf. I mean, look at this leaf. I'm gonna come around here and I'm gonna pick this up and show you how big this is. And folks, I've already cut this back twice. So what I do, just bring it up here, is I will cut back the tallest stem, maybe back to here or even down to here. Can't see this right now, but I originally cut it back to here. Then I take that stem and I root it in water. And then when I do that, it grows roots and I put it back in here. That's why you see all these stems. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 stems here. Now this one has to be staked because if I didn't stake it, it would fall right over. But it is doing beautifully, and where you see it right now, it is in this window, and this is a northeast facing window. It gets morning sun and it gets kind of mottled sun throughout the summer. Okay, I think I have covered everything over in this part of the jungle. So I will see you in part 2. What is this supposed to be called? Houseplant. You sent it to me.
Wait, I'll look it up. Just stand there.
Well, I was going to see what I wrote
Please
anyway.
don't go away.
And so today we're talking about why do I always pause there? Orchid. It's not an orchid, Chris.
Come on over. Now go make someone feel special today.